Hi guys, thanks for tuning in to another video on ForgottenWeapons.com. I'm Ian McCollum and I'm here today at the Rock Island Auction Company taking a look at an unusual Mauser. This is a Dominican Republic Mauser, which is unusual and interesting because the Dominican Republic is actually one of the few countries in Central or South America that never bought Mausers from any of the big manufacturers. They didn't buy them from DWM, they didn't buy them from Mauser, they didn't buy them from FN, they didn't buy them from CZ, nobody. So where did they end up with Mausers? Well, it turns out that starting in the early 1950s, the Dominican Republic bought a bunch of Mauser long rifles, like this one, and short rifles from Brazil, surplus rifles from Brazil. Now, Brazil had purchased these things between like 1908 and 1914 from Germany, and by the 1950s, they were pretty much obsolete there. Brazil was transitioning to, well, ultimately, the FAL rifle. And so they were quite happy to surplus a bunch of these off, and the Dominican Republic was just getting its own arms industry actually set up under General Trujillo. They would in fact get some help from a number of Hungarians, and they not only set up factories or facilities to refurbish guns, they actually put their own into production. The San Cristobol carbines went into production in the Dominican Republic, of all places, not really where you would expect an arms factory. At any rate, in addition to manufacturing new San Cristobol carbines, they also refurbished Mauser rifles from Brazil. So let me show you exactly what they did to them. If you are intimately familiar with your Brazilian Mausers, the first thing you will notice here is that the receiver has been blued. On the original Brazilian purchases, the receivers were left in the white, and one of the things that the Dominican Republic overhaul did was to blue them. They also scrubbed off all of the original Brazilian markings and replaced them with what you see here, Armera FA, Rep Dom, 1962 in this case. I expect the dates vary depending on when they were actually refurbished. And this one is number 1646. That number is also engraved into the bolt. Everything on this rifle actually has a pretty well caked on dark refinish to it. Not as nice as the original quality production of the Brazilian purchase guns, but I suppose this is the sort of thing that really makes sense if you're in a tropical country and the rifles are going to be out and around and probably abused. You want a nice, heavy, durable finish on the guns to help protect them. These also have this small style of sort of permanent, not quick detach, but it is a removable front sight hood, and that's not always present on the guns when you find them today. So that's a nice little extra bonus there. Note that the hardware up here is of the early Mauser 98 pattern, where the sling actually has a little wire, sort of a wire hook in it that can be attached up here to hold the sling taut, basically for parade use. There is a permanent sling swivel on the barrel band, and then there is no permanent rear sling swivel. The rear swivel is a quick detach one, like you would find on a German Gewehr 98, and it can be attached either here below the wrist or here in the trigger guard, depending on how you want to be carrying the rifle. Unlike the original production, or most Mausers for that matter, they did not put serial numbers on the floor plate or the trigger frame, the magazine well assembly. And you can see that the stock here has been sanded and varnished. This is the sort of thing that we would normally groan and grumble about if it had been done by an individual collector, but in this case it was part of the refurbishing process done by the Dominican Republic's military, and so that's how they chose to do them. And this one, it looks like, probably saw no service at all, went into storage after it was refurbished, and eventually came out to be surplused into the United States. So it's in basically brand new condition as it was done by the Dominicans. One last element to point out, these rifles were originally in 7mm Mauser as purchased by Brazil. The Dominicans left some of them in 7, and they also rebarreled some of them to 30-06. 7mm is a little more common, and that's what this one is. It's still in 7. Well, the Dominican Republic didn't get in a whole lot of wars and didn't end up having a whole lot of need for these Mausers. And of course, by the 60s, these things are kind of obsolete. So eventually, the Dominican Republic sold them off, and they were purchased and imported into the United States, where we end up with ones like this one. So it's in fantastic condition, although obviously has been heavily refinished, but of course that's exactly the point that we're talking about. So if you would like more information on this particular one, take a look at the link in the description text below. That'll take you to forgottenweapons.com, and from there you can continue along to Rock Island's catalog page on this guy, where you can see their pictures and their description and their price estimate and everything like that. Thanks for watching.